Hello everyone and welcome to a video. This one was actually requested a bit ago and I'm finally going to film it. So this video is all about my favorite authors and books. So we're just going to kind of go through things and just go from there, see where this takes us. So let's go with nonfiction. Nonfiction is my least reached for genre, but there are a few gems that I have found. I'm specifically thinking of two. So let's go with this one first. This I learned quite a bit from. I do have some tabs here, and I recommend this one to anyone who is thinking about owning a cat, especially for the first time. Even if you've owned cats, I still recommend this book because it talks about how they behave, certain things to watch out for, how certain behavior changes could signify that they're sick or injured or something. And that is Decoding Your Cat by the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. I found this very informative, and it actually helped me pick up something that my cat Ophelia was doing to indicate that she was not feeling good. So I got her in, and one of her anal glands was had ruptured, and thankfully it was not bad enough that she needed surgery or anything. I could tell she probably wasn't feeling too good, but with the help of this book I was able to see that something is just a little bit more serious than maybe just a little upset tummy or something like that. So I could kind of pick up on stuff a little bit more. So I was able to get her the help that she needed. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Again, that's Decoding Your Cat by the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. I know they have one for dogs too. And at some point I may pick that one up, but as of right now, I'm not. But yeah. Anyway, so yes, I like this one. I have found that I like to read a collection of short stories. I'm thinking more along the lines of Chicken Soup for the Soul. I remember when these were really big in the 90s, and I have just been wanting to go back to them because I absolutely enjoyed reading them. So I would like to kind of try to recollect the books and go from there. I like reading people's personal experiences of falling in love, of heartache, of having their pet, of school, and you know, all this stuff, and they're just in bite-sized pieces, and so I actually do really enjoy that. So I would say Chicken Soup for the Soul is one of my favorites. Yeah, not much else to say on that one. One of the thing with nonfiction I'm always leery of, I do not want to read a book that is so overly technical. If you like a lot of the technical stuff and technical terminology, like science terminology and stuff like that, then you're probably not going to like what I like, because you might be thinking mine is too simple. I want this more simple writing in the nonfiction. I just don't want a bunch of technical terminology I've never heard of before, that I have to look up a lot of stuff and all of that. I am finding I do like that I've enjoyed. Now I've only read maybe one biography or memoir, and that was the one by Tom Felton. I actually have it. Beyond the Wand. And I actually rather enjoyed it. So I am looking forward to reading more books like this from people that I recognize. Even those, I'm more leery of the ones I don't know, but I think I can still learn some valuable stuff from them. So I am looking to expand some of this. Now, I don't want the nonfiction to sound to read like a textbook. I'm not in school. I don't want to read anything that feels like a textbook. I'm trying to look up. Okay, so I have found a nonfiction author that I absolutely love his writing, and that is Erik Larson. Out of Erik Larson's work, I have read The Devil in the White City, Thunderstruck, and Lethal Passage. So that's 3 books. And what I like is he takes, like Devil in the White City, it was the whole event with, he referenced like when Jack the Ripper was on a terror streak, and how that coincided with America trying to outdo France with the big Eiffel Tower. We did the big, huge Ferris wheel, and all of that. So, and you kind of correlate, he kind of correlated some things. Anyway, it's just fascinating how he writes, and I have enjoyed everything that he's written so far. I want to own my own physical copy of all of his books. Yeah, and like I actually want to reread Devil in the White City. I read it, I don't even remember when I read it, but this is like the only nonfiction book that I can honestly 100% say I want to reread it, and that's the book by Erik Larson. I want to reread Thunderstruck. Rather than just listening to it on audiobook, I want to physically read while I listen along. I really want to do that. So Erik Larson is my favorite nonfiction author. Let's move on to graphic novels and mangas. One that I really like is a nonfiction graphic novel, and it's more slice of life, and that is Sarah Anderson. This particular series is the Sarah Scribbles collection. This first one is Adulthood is a Myth. I only have one more in this series, or this collection, to read, and then I'm 100% caught up. It's just kind of poking fun at things at life. It's like expectations versus reality. You know, girls in the winter versus girls in the summer. What it's like having a pet. What it's like being in a relationship. You know, a lot of poking fun at what women deal with stereotypes, people dealing with periods and things like that. It's like you're expecting to go on vacation, and then you're all packed and ready to go, and then your uterus shows up and it's like, hey, I'm ready too. AKA you're going to get your period while you're on vacation. So now I have read another graphic novel that is fiction. It was Cryptids by Sarah Anderson. Absolutely loved that. So Sarah Anderson is one I want to collect all of her work for. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So Sarah Anderson is one of my favorite artists and writers. So I have had a great time reading everything that I've had by her, which isn't much. It's 3 of the Sarah Scribbles collections and then the Cryptid one. But I want all of them. I like how relatable she makes a lot of stuff, and I love the art. It's I don't know. It's just easy to follow along. I really enjoy her work. Highly recommend. Another one of my favorite, this one's a manga. The sun is coming in. We're just gonna have to deal with it. That's just the way it is. One of my favorite mangas is Cat Massage Therapy. There's only 3 volumes right now. It is complete. I have not heard if there's going to be any more. This is just about, this is a contemporary, but it has a fantastical element because these cats own a massage parlor. They give people massages and they talk. So it does have a fantastical element. I'm going to adjust that. But it's just fun. And the art is really cute. And it's cats. So I really don't need to say more about that. That's better. Okay. Another manga. This one is, I'm holding up just for the author. And that's Junji Ito. I do enjoy the suspense and the horror, and I just love, these are short stories, or this particular one is a collection of short horror stories. Short horror stories tend to be hit or very much a miss for me. I think a lot of them should be expanded on, but Junji Ito, with the art and the stuff that's in here as far as the dialogue, gets the point across. Now, nothing's been overly horrifying and creepy to me personally in anything I've read by Junji Ito yet, but it's still been a great time and entertaining, and so I've enjoyed it. So Again, Junji Ito is one I will collect all of his work that I can. So I do really enjoy Junji Ito, and I know I would consider Junji Ito a booktube darling. I know a lot of people love Junji Ito's work. Another favorite graphic novel, this one was translated, I don't remember if it was Japanese, Chinese, or what it was, but this is a compilation of like 3 mangas, and so it's just a graphic novel format, and that is The Complete Cheese Sweet Home. This one's part 1 by Konami Kanata. I have part 2 ready to go. But this is just following the life of a kitten. The kitten gets separated from her mother and gets lost and gets found by a family of a mother, a father, and their son. They take in this kitten, and unfortunately they live in a place where they're not allowed to have animals, and so you're dealing with that conflict. But you watch as Chi gets her name Chi, and as you start to see more of her pet personality come forward and the bond develop between the family, it's just a really sweet book. Okay, I only have 4 more graphic novels / mangas to tell you about. This next one I am enjoying, and I'm working on collecting the entire series. Once I'm done with this series, I will move on to one of the artist's other work, and that is by Dana Simpson. Right now I'm working on the Phoebe and Her Unicorn series. This is just a fun time. It's just entertaining. This is middle grade. Phoebe saves the unicorn from staring at her reflection. She's granted a wish to become, and she wishes to become best friends with the unicorn Marigold, and they do, and you're just following on as they go on many adventures. It's just fun, and I think anyone at any age can enjoy it. It's very sweet and has dragons and things like that. It's just fun. There is, and I researched, and I do believe, let's see, Dana Simpson is transgender, and there is one of the characters in here who has 2 mothers. So you do have lesbian rep in here as well, but I don't think it pops up in this one. I think it's like the 2nd or the 3rd one, if I remember right, that it pops up. But it does kind of come up throughout the series every now and then. So I recommend Phoebe and Her Unicorn. Another one of my favorites is Orange. This is the Complete Collection Volume 1 by Ichigo Takano. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. I have Volume 2 ready to go. There is another volume, but it's basically the story of Orange, but told from someone else's POV. This one basically has an element of something with time travel, although no one's traveling in time. Basically, someone writes this note to their younger self, and that letter gets into the hands of the younger self, and so they try to make changes to save someone's life, and suicide is a big component of this story, so do be aware of that. Huge trigger for that. Basically, they're trying to save someone from committing suicide, and it's saying, on this day you do this, but don't do that, do this instead, type of a thing. So they're really trying to save someone's life. Another manga, I read this like not even halfway through, and I absolutely loved this book, and so I still have yet to get the 2nd one. I do own book 2 in this series, but when I'm done with this series, I'll look for more of the author's work. But I had a great time with this, and I was just giggling throughout this book, and that is Black Butler by Yana Toboso. He's got special, like, karate, taekwondo, kung fu type moves. I mean, just everyone respects him. He's good looking, and I don't know, there's just, it's like he can be very caring and then switch to like an assassin type butler. It was just a fun time. Anyway, and then I think my favorite, and unfortunately this series is complete. I don't think this author has any more work. Let me double check. Okay, So this author does have, or author and artist does have, there's this book called The Underneath, but I can't find where to buy that. It's not on Amazon or anything. They did the art for an illustrated edition of Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Other than that, this series I'm going to show you is the only thing that's really out. The series is complete, unfortunately. But that is the Creepy Cat series by Cotton Valent. Gothic, paranormal cats. There's witches and there's vampires in this as well. Yeah, 5 stars. If this is one that I will always recommend, no matter what level of reading mangas and graphic novels you're on. I especially recommend if you're new and want to kind of dip your toes into things. And you like any of those things, anything gothic, paranormal, cats, then I think you'll like this one. So I thoroughly love this one, and I wish this was going to be a longer series, but alas, it is complete. The next several ones I'm going to show you are basically going to be alphabetical order by author, last name. Historical fiction is this next book, and I really enjoyed the writing. This takes place during World War II, and you have family estrangement and joining a family member joining the resistance, someone else whose partner very much supports Hitler and the Nazis, but she is like absolutely not and sees the evil that it is, and trying to find a way to get away from all of that and not support that and actually help those that are being afflicted and hurt by the evil that is all of that. So, The War Girls by V.S. Alexander. He's got other work out, but I loved being in this writing, and it's hard to describe. It's like, I just loved it, and I now have everything that V.S. Alexander has ever written, and one that's on pre-order. So I will be working my way through. If I read an author and I love the writing so much that I immediately want everything they've ever written, they automatically become a favorite for me, and that is the case with V.S. Alexander. So, thoroughly enjoyed. This next one is a romance, and it's more towards sweet. Now, some of this author's work does have a little bit of spice. I think overall it's maybe about 2 to 3 pages worth, if that. And it is not explicit with the language. Now, sometimes there might be a few innuendos that creep up, but it's very, very mild compared to a lot of the stuff you see. But the overall story is very sweet, very tender, very small town, kind of found family, building relationships with the family that you do have, and things like that in a lot of the stories. And these take place, for the most part, in Scotland. Talking about Donna Ashcroft. Again, I want all of Donna Ashcroft's work. Thoroughly enjoyed. I have 5 of her books that I've read, and then I have like 5 of them left to read, and I think there's one that she's probably working on or something like that. This particular one is The Little Christmas Tea Shop of Second Chances, and holy cow, these are so sweet. Again, that does not mean there is no spice or no sexually explicit scenes. There are, but they are done in more of a tender way. It's not rough, it's not dark or anything like that. It is very light, and it's like maybe half a page for one scene, and then if another one comes up, it's another half a page. So you're getting like 1 page to maybe 3 pages depending on how long the buildup is and things like that. So very mild on the spice, but thoroughly enjoyed. The focus is on the relationship building and redefining yourself, or learning about yourself. It's not a coming of age because these are all adults, but in a way it is like a coming of age, but an adult version of a coming of age type book. Coming to terms with what you like, don't like, coming to terms with the past that you have had, your hopes and dreams for the future, things like that. Another romance author that I absolutely freaking loved, like I was giggling and things like that, Lauren Asher. So this one is The Fine Print. I do have the other 2 books in this series, and then I will be working through everything else that Lauren Asher has written. This does have a lot of spice, not a lot. So it's like very mild, very spicy. And then I have read books that are even spicier, but this is more on the very spicy side, very tame and mild. So yeah, I love this one. Dual POV. And the other books in this series are more companion because they follow different brothers and their partners. So this one is Rowan and Zara. Thoroughly loved the work. So Lauren Asher has become another one of my, I want to read all of their works, favorite author type things. So after only reading one book. Sometimes there's this writing that you just connect to, and Lauren Asher is one that I just connected to with their writing, and so I really enjoyed it. This next author, I've read quite a bit of their work, and I'm talking about Leigh Bardugo. So this one's Ninth House. I've read this one. I read the next one in this series, which is Hellbent. There is supposed to be a 3rd book. I've read the King of Scars duology. I have read the Crooked Kingdom duology, or the Six of Crows duology, as well as the Grishaverse. And I have read Wonder Woman, that is also written by Leigh Bardugo. Absolutely love Leigh Bardugo's writing. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to say, and I can't go into a lot of detail, otherwise this video is going to be extremely long. Cozy Mystery favorite series is a Kitchen Witch mystery series by Lynn Cahoon. This one's the first one in this series. There is a novella. Before, I don't remember the title of the novella, but this one's One Poison Pie. Contemporary world, but there are witches. Later on in the series, there's werewolves. It's your standard cozy mystery. Yeah, this is just one, again, I am going to collect all the books as they come out. I've read 3, along with 2 of the novellas. There's a 4th one I have yet to read, and then there's a 5th book that I have pre-ordered. So I will be collecting this entire series, and then I will be working on other books by Lynn Cahoon. But I love this cozy mystery series, and generally there's always an animal companion, at least in the cozy mysteries that I have read, and in this, it's a cat. And this cat is sharing the cat is forced to share their body with a deceased human spirit, which is really interesting. And you find out more about that. It's pretty comical. Another cozy mystery series that I really like is, crap, what is it? Oh, a Bookmobile cat mystery. This first one is called Lending a Paw. It was written by Laurie Cass. I am planning on reading book number 2 in January. Again, this is another one I fell completely head over heels for. Want to read all of this author's work. This other one, there are movies. There is a movie based on this book. Love the movie franchise. I think I have yet to see the most recent or the most recent 2, but it came out when I just couldn't go to the theater at my time of life, but I need to try to watch the most recent 1 or 2 videos. And I'm talking about the Jurassic Park franchise. Absolutely love that movie, those movies. And I read the book, finally, by Michael Crichton, and holy cow, love the book just as much as I love the movies. There are there's more similarities at the first half of the book with the movies, and then the second half you're seeing a lot more of the differences. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I will now be picking, I do have The Lost World, so I will be reading that, and that's all in the Jurassic Park world that Michael Crichton has written. But I do have another one by Michael Crichton up on deck, as well as The Lost World, and the one I have is It's about pirates. That's all I know. Now, a young adult author that I absolutely love, and I own all of their works. I've gone through, there was one book that was a combination of 2 short stories, and then I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their full-length novels, and that is Sarah Dessen. I find them very easy, very manageable, very tender, sweet. I just enjoy them. Sarah Dessen, as she continues to put out more work, which I haven't heard of anything new coming out yet. I think the most recent one was 1 or 2 years ago, but if she decides to come out with more books, I will automatically pick it up. Absolutely love the work. And I like the relatableness of the characters, of relating back to what my teenage life was like compared to what they are going through. A lot of the same stuff I find very relatable when I reflect back on my younger self. So, if you're looking for a good contemporary, I do recommend Sarah Dessen, with caution, because there's a lot, there can be, or in each book that I have read by Sarah Dessen, there has been something that can be very triggering to a lot of people. Like, one of them deals with a school shooting. And I think that one was Someone Like You. Drug use and alcoholism by those that are underage is a big theme. So yeah, just look up potential trigger warnings, because there are, Sarah Dessen's writing does deal with heavier topics, but I highly recommend Sarah Dessen. This next author I am going to be referring to is actually under their pen name. I did try under their given name, and I did not particularly care for the book. So I think the type of genres that they write under the pen name is more my speed. And I'm talking about the pen name of Mira Grant. Mira Grant is the pen name for Seanan McGuire. I tried book 1 in the Wayward Children series, did not care for it. But from what I have heard, it sounds like I will enjoy more being in the individual worlds when they go through a certain doorway. So I would like to at least try book 2 in that series to see if I like that one, but I am not hopeful. But I hope to be pleasantly surprised. But I love what I've read under Mira Grant. Now, I've only read 1 series, and this is the first series that I've read that deals with zombies, and I find I really do like zombie stories now, thanks to Mira Grant. And that is the Feed series, or it's the Newsflesh series is what it is called. Science fiction, but there is not a lot of science terminology. And it's, in this particular one, we've cured cancer, cured the common cold, but now there is this virus that lives inside of every human. It has to be activated somehow. Usually if you die, then you're reanimated as a zombie. Yeah. This next author, holy cow, fell in love with book 1, read the entire first series. I have 1 more book in the series that follows this one to read, and then there's another series, yeah, that I find that I really like, books that give Viking vibes. I'm talking about John Gwynne. This is the Faithful and the Fallen series. This is book number 1 in the series. There's one series that follows this called Of Blood and Bone. That series has some of the same characters from this series, and it reminisces on events from this series, so you need to read this series, The Faithful and the Fallen, before you read Of Blood and Bone. 5 stars. I have, like, every book that I've read by John Gwynne so far has been, like, I think 5 stars. Definitely no less than 4, if any of them even got 4 stars. Love the Viking vibes, love the camaraderie, the found family. I love that John Gwynne is not afraid to kill off some beloved characters, because that's life with war. People you love and care for die. And I also didn't mind, do be cautious, as this is a lot of very war heavy. There's a lot of bloodshed and guts and gore, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I like that. But John Gwynn, absolutely loved. Now, I'm also going to say this. When I was reading this book, I heard a song. It was either one of two songs. It was either Valhalla Calling or Ragnarok. Either way, the artist for both of them that I heard was Peyton Parrish. It's like the perfect, like if this series had a soundtrack, both of those songs by Peyton Parrish would be the soundtrack to this series. Absolutely loved it. Those are still two of my favorite songs. When I'm starting to feel a little kind of down and depressed, I put those on, and it's just, I just love them. I love them. And at some point, I will definitely be rereading these. I mean, they're thick. It is a little bit more of a commitment because of how thick they are and dense. But I do want to reread these to see if I can pick up on more stuff that I missed upon the first read. Love John Gwynn's writing. Alrighty, I am on the last stack of books here that I consider like favorite books. These are ones that I will recommend first compared to a lot of other books and authors. This one I recommend very much with caution. A lot of this author's work that's out so far is, especially with this series, has to do with crimes against children. I'm talking about sexual assault, things like that. There's another series that has started that's only one book out, and it is sexual assault more towards adult women. So definitely darker topic, very triggering can be, but love the writing. I love the female vengeance in a lot of them. But yeah, so that's Dot Hutchison. And so again, be very, very cautious. Look up the trigger warnings. But I really enjoy this. Want to read everything by Dot Hutchison. Yeah. Okay. Next up is a new to me author. Absolutely fell in love with this and the type of where it's like a fractured fairy tale. This is my first fractured fairy tale that I have read. Absolutely loved. And that is thanks to Emily McIntyre, and that is Hooked. I'm looking forward to reading Scarred. Very dark. It is. I'm finding I like the darker, the better. I do enjoy the light, fluffy stuff, but I really like the dark stuff. And this was confirmed with this. Not the darkest as far as content goes, but definitely I have found that generally the more darker the topic, the more triggers there are. So you do need to be cautious going into them, but thoroughly enjoyed, want to read a lot more stuff by Emily McIntyre. This next one, this author only has 2 books out so far. This first one my mom read, and she's like, don't read it, you're not going to like it. Well, if you tell me I'm not going to like something and not to read it, I'm going to want to read it to find out for myself. And I'm glad I did because I loved it. I enjoyed the next book that the author wrote just as much as this one. And I have pre-ordered the 3rd book the author has that's coming out in 2024. And I think that's supposed to come out in January. I am so excited for another book by this author. And that's Alec Michaelides. I've heard it pronounced correctly by the author himself like once, and I can't remember how to say it now. But this one is The Silent Patient. I know this is very hit or miss for a lot of people, and I know that some people that have enjoyed this hated the second book and vice versa, but I thoroughly enjoyed the writing. I loved it, and I just found it to be a very entertaining, great time. So he does have another book coming out in January, and I've got that pre-ordered again, and I'm so excited to get another book in my hands by Alex Michaelides. This next one is a middle grade, and this series I have found as it goes on, at least in the second book, I have yet to read the 3rd one, but the second one is I have found to be creepier than the first one. But this is a paranormal series, middle grade, and that's the Spirit Hunters series by Ellen O. Loved this series. I have the 3rd one, and I look forward to it. There is some commentary on how people will look at someone that's Asian and have their preconceived biases or judgments and things like that. So there is a little bit of commentary on that, which in this particular case, how it's handled, I think is very well done. And a lot of people can learn from that. But yeah, fun series. Just be aware. It does get very creepy, and I think the next one, even though it's still a middle grade, was definitely more for a mature end of the middle grade spectrum, or more of a mature audience compared to this one, because there is possession, and the other one is just, in my opinion, more creepy than this one. So, another one that I absolutely loved, and is another author that I want all of their work from, is Claribel A. Ortega. This is Ghost Squad. This is the first book I read by this author. The second book I read was Witchlings, and I hope to get to the second book, Witchlings number 2, in this month or January. Anyway, but absolutely love. And what I loved about this particular one, and even in Witchlings, I like how there are Spanish words integrated into this. Now, my only issue with Witchlings is it did not come with a glossary. Ghost Squad does have a glossary, so if there's a word in Spanish that you're unable to decipher or glean what it means in the book, you can just look it up in the glossary, because it will tell you what it means. So there's a glossary in the back of this, like abuela, chula, luna, mama, niña, nove, prima, and a lot of other terms. Witchlings did not have a glossary, but there also were not as many Spanish terms in that one. But I love the integration of the Spanish words in this, and I think it's a great way to pick up on a few words as well. But yeah, paranormal. I really like the paranormal. And this is a fun middle grade one, and I want everything by Claribel Ortega. Okay, now one series I'm going to say this is an honorable mention. Let's do two honorable mentions. Okay. No, we'll do 3. And these are very well-known series. One is Twilight, just because I love the vampires, but it does not make my favorites list. Another honorable mention series I would say is The Hunger Games. I did not get as attached to it as a lot of other people, so honorable mention. And I would say I liked The Hunger Games more than the Twilight series. This next one is just kind of all on its own, just because I read, I was bribed to even start reading it. My mom bribed me to even start reading it, and then I fell in love with the world. I still love the world, but I am finding there's a lot of other books that I like, that I enjoy just as much, if not maybe sometimes a little bit more. But this world is just very much a comfort, and that's the Harry Potter series. So I am giving that one an honorable mention series. But there's a lot more stuff that I just have enjoyed the writing more than that series. But the characters are very much a big comfort, kind of like a comfort blanket type of a situation, but you still have other favorites. One of those being the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I love this series, and I wish the fandom base was just as big, if not bigger, than the Harry Potter series. I love this series. Dystopian I really like, and I think that's part of why I like this series more than something like Harry Potter, is just I love the dystopian. I love the fantasy and the magical stuff, but for me, I like the dystopian, and I think what I like about that is you can see with dystopian a lot how it's like if the world were to go a certain way, how this could become a reality, and that's what I like. I guess that's the closest guess, but I love this series, and I just wish there was a bigger fan base. I mean, like, you can go anywhere and find, or to a lot of places and find a lot of like Harry Potter merch, wands, blankets, mugs, but I don't see a lot of stuff for the Divergent series, and I wish there was a lot more merch out there that existed for the Divergent series. I would be picking that stuff up. So, next is another middle grade that I absolutely love this series. I've read 4 so far, but it's fun. This is a middle grade, takes place in junior high. This is told in diary format, which I absolutely love. And the junior high or middle grade student that we are following this is an artist, and so she does sketches in her book. But that is the Dork Diaries series written by Rachel Renee Russell. Highly recommend, especially for more feminine reads. Even those that are more masculine in life can enjoy this, but how things are handled and drawn and the friendships, I think, can be more relatable to those who are more on the feminine side of things. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. For me, junior high was so enjoyable. I loved junior high, hated high school, and this brings back a lot of my fun memories of junior high and a lot of wishfulness of what my junior high experience could have been as well. But love this series, highly, highly, highly recommend. Love that. This next one, I had to put this book in my favorites because it gave me such a reaction. One, I thoroughly loved this and want to read more of this author's work. But I have never read a book that physically made me gag before, and this book did that. This book has a scene with an egg, and that's all I'm going to say, that I read it and I gagged. Like, my mom was like, "Are you sick? Are you going to throw up?" No, I'm just gagging from a scene in a book. And that is The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. I don't know if this has made anyone else gag, but if you've read this, let me know if it made you queasy, made you gag, or whatever. But yeah, I had to include that because this book this is the first book that has ever gave me that kind of a reaction, and I would love more books to be able to do that. I have cried in a lot of books, and I have laughed in a lot of books, and giggled, but that's the first gag. Now, I can't do this video without mentioning my all-time favorite author, and that's mostly out of nostalgia. This author got me into reading at a young age. And I mean, I read before this one, but it was mostly stuff that my mom picked out or my grandma picked out for me to read. But this was my first, this is what I like, me personally. I'm not reading because someone else picked it out to think I will like it. This is what I picked it up. I was intrigued by the synopsis. I was intrigued by the cover and thoroughly fell in love with this author's writing. And that's the Fear Street books by R.L. Stine. R.L. Stine is what got me into really enjoying reading at a young age. I loved it. Now, R.L. Stine does have a series out called Goosebumps. I have read a couple of the Goosebumps series. What I have read, I did enjoy. However, now keep 2 things in mind when I say this. 1, I am autistic, and so sometimes my thinking is different. And 2, I was a child, okay? I thought when I was growing up that the Goosebumps, I was like in 5th grade when I first picked up R.L. Stine and found R.L. Stine, but so I found the Fear Street books and the Goosebumps. I thought the Goosebumps were meant for the boys. Girls were meant to read Fear Street. That's what I thought, and that's how I felt as a child. I wish there was someone to say, read what you love. You know, it doesn't matter. If you think this is for boys, you can still love it. Reading is not gender specific. Anyone can enjoy anything that they read and pick up. So I wish I would have done that because I think I would have enjoyed the Goosebumps books as much as the Fear Street books. There is one type of series in the Goosebumps books that I absolutely hated, but I read it because it was so hyped. I read a couple of them, but I absolutely hated it. And that was the choose your own adventure. So you would read a little bit and then it's like, okay, what would you do in this situation? If you would do this, go to page 84. If you would do this, go to page 112. If you would do this, just flip to the next page. Hate that. I just read from cover to cover. I hate anything where it's like a choose your own adventure in books. Now, if it's like a readathon, I still am like, not my favorite thing. It still can be fun, but it still bugs me. Not as much as those stupid choose your own adventure books, in my opinion. I hate those. Will not read those. Absolutely hate them. I have got to read cover to cover. I cannot jump around in the book. So anyway, R.L. Stine is what got me into reading. So R.L. Stine will always, always be a favorite author to me. This next one, if you want chick lit, clean, Melissa Storm. This one is the Sunday Potluck Club. There are 3 books out in this series, although there are 4 friends. I would love to see a 4th book come out. But as of right now, there's only 3, and they are more companion type books. So technically you can read them in any order. I still recommend reading them in order of publication because the events of the second book follow the events of the first book. But it is more companion type books. So very sweet, very clean, no sexually explicit scenes. So again, very clean and just a great read. But do look up content warnings because they do, each book has followed a particular trigger. Like one of them follows death of a partner or death of a parent, single parent, cancer in one of them. Yeah, so they do deal with some harder hitting topics. So do look up the content on those, but I do recommend Melissa Storm. And I've only read 2 books by her, but I absolutely loved them. This next book that I absolutely had a great time, and when someone asks for a detective-led book that's in the horror genre, I recommend this with caution because it does get gruesome with blood and guts because you're following a serial killer who does not great things with bodies, blood and guts wise. The Chestnut Man by Soren Svistrup. You're following 2, I believe it was 2 POVs in this one. The chapters are short, so I felt like the book read a lot faster because the chapters are short. And this was just a great time. I loved reading from the perspective of detectives trying to get in the serial killer's head to catch and figure out what was going on. And I just had a great time with this. I had a great time with all of these. But yeah, so this is a favorite book. If people want recommendations for, I've read quite a few detective-led books, but this one is the one that always comes to my mind when people ask. Okay, I only have 3 more books that I am going to tell you about. This first one is a romance. It is very clean, and this is a Christian romance. So if you want clean romance and Christian romance, this could be an author for you. I have read this book and the prequel novella, but not even halfway through this book, I checked this book out from the library. Not even halfway through the book, I was like, I love this writing, I love the story. I need my own copy. And not only did I buy the first book in this trilogy, but I bought the whole trilogy. So that tells me how much I love the writing. Now, I'm talking about the author of Becky Wade. So very clean. The emphasis on this romance is the building of the relationship. There is no sex. There is talk of how cute and handsome someone is. A little bit of lusting, but that's as explicit as it gets. Get some kissing, and that's pretty much it. If it's been a bit since I've read this, if there was any sex, it was very much a fade to black, closed door. You're not seeing anything depicted on the screen or on the page. And again, there's a lot, this is Christian, so there is a lot of reference to God and faith and things like that. And thoroughly enjoyed this one. And the other one follows, so I think each one follows a different sister, because it's a set of 3 sisters in this book. We're following one, and the next one follows one of her sisters, and I think the third one will follow the other sisters. So, but, and if I ever have the chance to meet Becky Wade, I will want to get the books personalized and autographed. Yeah. R.L. Stine is the other one that I would want. The other ones, it's like, if I ever meet them, but I'm not going to hold my breath, but I would love to absolutely meet. Like, those are my 2 priorities, Becky Wade and R.L. Stine. And this next one, which is Wendy Webb. The first Wendy Webb book that I ever read was The End of Temperance Dare. This one takes place at, it was an abandoned tuberculosis asylum that is now converted to an artist's retreat. Things are not quite what they seem. There is possession in this as well. I'm finding I love to read a book with possession. So, thoroughly enjoy. I love Wendy Webb's writing, and I love the gothic vibes. Wendy Webb does a great job with the gothic vibes. So if you want more creepy books, but with a lot of the gothic buildings and eras and things like that, Wendy Webb is one to definitely look into. Highly recommend. And this is one I always try to recommend when people talk about liking suspenseful books. I always say pick up a Wendy Webb. Try Wendy Webb. Okay, this next book has a special place in my heart because it's the first book that I read that I actually felt like I saw myself in a book. You don't always need to see yourself in a book to enjoy the book, but this is the first time I recognized a lot of the struggles and the thinking that I see, and that is Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. This is told in 2 POVs. This does have LGBT rep. One of the characters is bi, or was she les? No, she's bi. But the other POV is from someone who is autistic, and the one that is autistic is the one that I identified with. Could see, she talked about stimming, but doing smaller movements, like twirling your hair, or other things where it's small that someone would look at and think, oh, you're just fidgety, you might be a little nervous, but wouldn't see that as stimming. You're not drawing attention to yourself, not having meltdowns out in public, like you can feel a meltdown coming on and then going and being in private so that you don't make a scene, you know, or feel like you're drawing attention to yourself. You want to have your meltdown in private. So you like going to the bathroom, which is what I did at work when I was in the office, and now that I'm working at home, I don't have to worry about that. But I would have meltdowns at work just because of how overstimulated I was and stressed, and have to go into the bathroom and just cry and just pray that no one came in and heard anything. So yeah, totally understand. This is the first time I actually saw myself or any aspect of myself in a book. So this holds a special place in my heart because of that. And I love this. And so if you're looking, this is one that I always try to recommend for people that want to read a book that has neurodivergent rep or wants to read more books with autism rep. Jen Wilde is on the autism spectrum as well. If you're looking to understand anyone that's possibly autistic, I say read this one as well, because there's a lot of books out there that are very stereotypical of stuff that you would see in Hollywood movies when it comes to autism depiction, where it's like, this has autism rep in it, and people that are autistic don't present the same way is the word I'm looking for. Just because you've met one person that's autistic does not mean you've met everyone that's autistic. You know, that's why it's a spectrum. So anyway, love this one. Highly recommend. So that's all the books that I have read. I look forward to finding some new authors that I absolutely love and new books. So we'll look forward to see what 2024 brings. Let me know. What are some of your favorite books that you have read throughout your life? Who are some of your favorite authors? Let me know. Talk to me in the comment section below. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I'll talk to you later.